Welcome to the Elijah Rising podcast. Elijah Rising is an organization empowering women recovering from sexual exploitation. This episode is going to help you become more aware about the issue of sex trafficking and inspire you to take action.
Welcome back to the Elijah Rising podcast. I am your host, Micah Gamboa, and today we have some fun. I hope it's fun. What I think is fun.
Who knows,
bonus
man?
Content
Where
for
it ends
you.
up is always a mystery to me, and I'm the one saying it.
So today, Joe Madison from Demand Disruption is going to be joining us to share a couple stories about kind of just some of the craziest stuff that's happened.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of them, but we will keep it to a minimum today. So we're doing this new thing, Joe, called like bonus content, where we just share a little bit of like behind the scenes of Elijah Rising or our partner agencies or how we, there's a lot of wacky stuff that happens.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
That goes on. This is a day in the life.
I'm just going through them in my head right now. So yeah,
I know.
please.
You're like, which one? Which story do you want?
Let's start sorting.
So tell us a little bit about, there was a time when you got a very interesting, it wasn't really an infectious disease. There was some kind of interesting situation that happened. Now,
who doesn't kick off a fun conversation with the word infectious disease?
they're like, do we need to know?
I don't have any pictures. You can stay tuned. It's fine.
We do, actually. We do.
I do have a picture, actually.
I
Yeah. Different story. Oh, you're going to add that in there, huh? Okay, go ahead.
It's not an infectious, for our listeners, it's not infectious disease. I don't know what else to call it.
No,
It was an anomaly.
The doctors don't know what to call it.
There you go.
So it was crazy. It was actually the week. So get this. In my faith journey, like just starting to know the Lord, in my own faith, I'm a Christian. I grew up with, God is God exalted. Like you don't ever even... But then I met somebody who said, hey, no, you can have a relationship with him. I was like, what's that look like? That sounds like blasphemy, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, all kidding aside, I started to kind of, in my life, see that there are things that are explainable. And it took a little while, but I started to come around to understanding what attacks are.
Yeah.
And so I'm supposed to... Our founder, Bo, was moved to Malaysia. He was called to the mission field where he had served before. He and his family moved to Malaysia. And he asked me if I would take over. We were co-directing at the time. He asked me if I'd take over. I said yes after a lot of thought. And we went to a convention in D.C. We came back and I had, believe it or not, hiccups, which was weird, right? Why do I have hiccups? Then I had more and more hiccups. And then it got to a point where I was breathing in, but I wasn't breathing out. Like it really got very, very strange. Went to the emergency room, sent me home. Emergency room, sent me home. I got admitted, and in about 9 days, I lost 27 pounds.
Wow.
My system was attacked completely. My wife, who is a lovely nurse and was by my side, and without going into detail, probably saved my life while I was in that hospital. She sees a lot of issues in her work. But this one really scared her because there was sort of this trend kind of going downhill. Yeah. It's not a very fun story yet.
It really isn't.
I don't know that it's going to be.
Stick with us, kid.
But I think it's important. Like we stop and go, wait a second, that happened.
Yeah.
The actual week I was supposed to take over, I was meeting our funders. I was meeting our partners. I was getting everything transferred over legally, everything. And not only did I get sick, you can call me and we can talk about it. I couldn't speak.
Yeah.
When I started to speak, I'd hiccup. When I hiccuped up, I had this, ultimately it was a spasm.
Yeah.
And I could not function. And so here I am completely debilitated in this it ended up being about, I guess, 13, 14 days. And looking back on it, you really have to take stock and ask, was that just a coincidence?
Right.
Is it something the doctors can't decide or can't explain? No, they couldn't explain it. And I look back on it and realize what it was this is an attack. This is to keep us from doing the work we're doing. I think we've all experienced that in some way or another, even if we don't realize it. Because had I not had that perspective, I wouldn't realize that. I would just thought, I just got
some
sick.
wacky thing that just happened. Yeah.
The
same
crazy.
week I took over a ministry that's focused on ending demand of sex trafficking. No big deal.
Literally
it doesn't have
that
anything to
week.
do with
Exactly. That's crazy. Yeah, I think of our time together just working with Elijah Rising. And if you don't know, I volunteered with Elijah Rising for years. In fact, they ruined my life. Now I'm 4 for 4 on podcasts that I said that because the awareness that came with the work that y'all do made it impossible to go back to my career. I was just called to do this work.
I remember when you were in the hospital. I mean, we were praying for you because we were like, what is going on with Joe, right?
Yeah.
And the reason it's stuck in my mind is because I have this picture of my husband, David, you in the middle, in the bed, like the hospital bed with like full hospital regalia. You know what I mean? As only hospitals can do, right? And then another colleague of ours. And I remember they had to wear full, like, not hazmat suit, but like full gear in order to just come visit you because it was such an anomaly. Like we don't know what he has or what is going on.
It's true. I was isolated in that wing for 9 days.
9 days. Yeah. And so this other part of the story, it kind of ties in because at that, in that hospital room, David showed you a photo, which I'll circle back to in just a second. So we had.
All news to me because I was thoroughly stoned. I'm not even joking. Even that picture, if you zoom in and look at my eyes, I bet the lights are on. Ain't nobody home.
I know, gosh.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Elijah Rising does not condone the use of illegal drugs. Anyways, just kidding. So Elijah, so concurrent to this, the week that you're in the hospital, we had this really weird situation. We used to office at the corner. It was a mildly busy intersection, right? In Houston, like smallish neighborhood. I mean, we're not talking downtown or anything like that, but busy enough to where there's a lot of traffic. Our offices were upstairs, and then we had a couple spaces like down the road. It was like a little strip center. Okay. So on the corner, our office is upstairs. Well, out of nowhere, like noon on a Monday or something, this car comes flying through the intersection, and he crashes right through the building, the corner of the building, which is the downstairs of us. And thank God it was, it used to be a little eatery, and nobody was there, even though it was lunchtime. I mean, like, praise God, right? So no one gets hurt. You actually can see the video camera footage of the owner of the place, like, jumping out of the way and then the car crashing through the building, which is like, okay, I'm sorry, what? So I'm down the row, down the strip center. So I just hear this. I thought someone, like, slammed the door really hard next to me or something. I was like, that was rude. I'm, like, all annoyed.
Slammed your car, slammed the door. Either way, it's rude. Yeah.
So this car is now inside this building, okay? And our offices are immediately upstairs. There's a little, oh my gosh, what's my brain? Staircase. Wow, that was really, staircase. Anyway, so I think it was David, my husband, and maybe a couple of our other colleagues, like, come downstairs, and they ended up, like, opening this guy's door. He's high as a kite, like, totally out of it. And they're like, hey, buddy, like, the car had caught on fire. And so there's smoke everywhere. The building is about, catching on fire. And he's like, let's get out of the car, People are calling 911. And by this point, there's, like, crowds, like, what is going on? And crowds are all around.
That's a busy intersection.
It was a busy,
a lot of businesses there. That's crazy.
So we're all standing. I mean, it took forever, right, to get, okay, so fire department comes. By this time, our building is, like, on fire. Like, everyone's out. Everything's safe, thank goodness. But it's just like, well, now we had just moved in, like, a month or two prior. We were like, okay, well.
I remember that. Yep.
So the fire department, all we see is them jumping on the roof of the building, and they start, like, chainsawing a hole in the building, like, in the roof, and then, like, sticking the hoses into our office, like, well,
probably should have taken those files home.
The files are kaput. Our computers are gone. Like, this is really wacky.
Oh my God.
And I remember turning to our CFO, and I was like, we have a backup, right? Like, QuickBooks, like, when's the last time we backed that up? Okay. Like, we're good. But the wackiest thing was with all of that situation, we get, we're taking pictures. So circle back to you in the hospital, David and I think it was Sam, they came in and they're like, hey, like, telling you the story of this just happened to our building. And there was something that triggered your memory. because you used to run the van tours, you and your wife, a lot of van tours. And you were like, I know that truck, right? Like you remembered the truck.
While you're telling the story, I was ready to then contribute that. This is awesome that I've already told this story and I didn't even know it. So go ahead. Yes, please.
So you remember the truck because the owner of the truck, the man who plunged into the building, actually used to circle the block and like would scream out profanities at the van tours for whatever reason. He's not a brothel owner.
No, he screamed out his profanities in support of Jesus. It's different than you. I probably didn't include that. That's where I was like, I know. I thought maybe later I realized this because I really was out of it. I mean, they had me on everything.
Oh my gosh.
But this guy pulls up. We're walking from the van to go inside, and he's like, "Woo, y'all church? No, y'all we love Jesus, love Jesus." And it's MF, and this all he's dropping F-bombs in support of the Lord. It's just
like, well, I'm confused.
Okay, okay, buddy.
Thank you. I don't know what to
Come as you are. Please don't drive through our building. Yeah.
So that was what, like a week or two prior? I don't know. That was several weeks prior.
God,
Same guy.
I can't believe that I told that story and I was getting ready to tell it right now and you're telling it because I told it already.
Like, what are the odds?
Crazy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit of our history, the lore that comes with. There's so many.
I love that we're shooting this in front of this giant window because from garbage trucks to nearly naked men walking by. I don't know if y'all caught that. Don't edit that out, okay? Leave it.
If you're not watching on YouTube, we just had a man in underwear just walk by our building.
It is a microcosm of our life as partners and friends. Yeah. Stay tuned for what happens next. God, that's not a challenge. Please don't bring us anything else that we tell stories.
I'm literally dying. I'm literally dying because I didn't see him until you started talking and he was on the other side.
Again, I saw him from down the block. I was like, he's going to come straight through this shot, isn't he? Yeah, there he is. Yeah. Hey, buddy.
All that to say, this work gets crazy. There's crazy stuff that happens, and I'm convinced that at least 50% of it is like a demonic attack. I'm like, no, that was definitely the enemy. Like, that was.
And the other 50% is just downright entertaining.
Wacky. Yeah. Well, this was so fun. I'm sure we'll have you back again on the podcast. And
expect it.
I'm sure we'll find another bonus episode content to film. But
it's always an honor. It's always fun.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Micah. Right.
See y'all next time.
Thank you for joining us today for this episode. If you were inspired by this content today, please share, rate, and leave a review. Also, please consider making a donation at elijahrising.org/donate. Your support helps us continue the vital mission to combat sex trafficking. Until next time.